due to the large, we've got thousands of mosques, and the Azhar has no ability to control over these mosques, so they allowed non-accredited clerics to basically ascend the member and give speech. And a lot of these speeches sometimes...
There are lots of graduates from Azhar University.
A lot of graduates, but they're not enough. And you can see now that Azhar started to look to include all the major mosques, but the small ones are not included in the actual plan.
Why doesn't that problem exist in churches, for example?
Because of the number of mosques. We've got thousands of mosques that exist throughout the country, and the clerics that are accredited are not enough, and therefore people basically allow others that they think, they're respectable people and they're very good, they ascend the member and give a speech. And with time it became basically the norm of life that anybody can ascend the member, and that's what we're having at the moment. A lot of ideologies, the members in the mosque have been used for elections, for example, for political ideologies, and we've seen that the Muslim Brotherhood have used these members quite a lot in promoting the violence. So I think it is still late, but it is a start to try to get the religious concept back on track, clean up all the misunderstanding of religion, fighting violence, and as we said earlier, is not just about fighting terrorism with weapons. It's about fighting terrorism inside the civil society by clearing the wrong ideologies, educating youth, and taking care of education at all levels to ensure that kids are brought up on the right ideologies of moderate Islam that loves everybody irrespective of their religion, and spread peace and security.
Right. The second issue that is related to the religious clerics, and according to Sisi's words, is that it's impossible, as we people, we hold the most prestigious and the most sacred cause in the whole world, which is Islam and its rulings. We could be the reason at the same time causing destruction and causing danger, anxiety, and a lot of fear to the rest of the world. And also tarnishing the image of this sublime religion.
Absolutely, because part of it we definitely responsible for, because we emptied Islam from its core of concepts. We started to practice Islam on just the front, but inside we're not actually following the right rulings of Islam. For example, Islam said you have to work, to be polite, and you have to show respect, but on our behaviors we're not actually reflecting that. We can see that the chaos that we have in the traffic, we have in work, we have in corruption. We are number 14 on the list of the world of the most corrupted nations. So if you actually take that and measure it on the rulings of Islam, how come this is what Islam is talking about? So the problem is us. The problem
not only religious, it's most of the Islamic world is related
and I want to also
corruption.
Be fair that the misrepresentation of religion is not only on Islam, it's on all religions. We've seen the Jews.
Vatican have also
absolutely, we've seen the Jews and the massacre they caused in Palestine, Judaism, bloodshed, yet they're doing it. So the problem here is that the media in the West actually kind of exploded. Absolutely, it blows the whole thing. And the problem is that we make it worse by actually creating misrepresentation in terms of our behaviors. So we're actually not doing Islam a favor, or not doing ourselves a favor. So if you look at the ideology spread by ISIS or Al-Qaeda or any of them, it actually confirms what any Western media would say about Islam, that it's a violent religion, etc. So unfortunately, we have people or groups in our society, Muslim society overall, around the world, that actually confirming what the Western media or some of the Western media are saying, actually not helping.
So in other words, are you accusing those ignorant misinterpreters, religious clerics, that they claim that they come from an Islamic ideological background of feeding the greed of the media outlets to tarnish the image of Islam?
Absolutely. So if you look at the bloodshed that's caused, and people that have been slaughtered by ISIS, for example, in Syria, and saying, and a lot of rituals when they slaughter people. Now, in what kind of religion would you allow a human being to slaughter another human being? So we need to also confirm or acknowledge that human beings rely a lot on hearing. So we hear from the media that, the Egyptian society is this and that, so we believe it. So we cannot expect everybody to read about Islam. So the problem is, there's a lot of footage and a lot of behaviors that have been shown by our own people that are totally against Islam. And unfortunately, when it comes to the media and trying to basically explain it, becomes very difficult, because on one side you say that Islam is the religion of peace, that's coming actually from Islam, or salam, the peace be upon you. And on the other side, there's people slaughtering each other. If you look at the crisis now in Syria, people are fighting each other, Libya fighting each other. So, and unfortunately, the conspiracy of the fourth generation of war, which is destruction from within, that's being created by Western society, is actually feeding into the media as well, because it's showing that Muslims are fighting, Muslims and Christians are fighting inside one society. So unfortunately, what we need is an absolute reform of our religious and social ideologies to be able to represent Islam or Christianity, for that matter, in the right manner.
Right. The President also expressed a very important point that is related to that particular issue, which is setting ourselves free from the cocoon that we have trapped our mindsets in. How important is stepping outside the trap that we have trapped, where we have locked ourselves in for years and years, and being able to root out the problem from the source and trying to resolve it? So is it going to help? So it's not only a problem of religious clerics, but also a problem of awareness and culture.
Absolutely. We've seen during the marginalization of...
And we've seen in our everyday lives.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I want to say, because during the last 30, 40 years, the marginalization of people and undermining them, it actually makes them kind of accepting or passive towards any ideology or a message that gets given to them by the media. And now we have our brains full of messages, let's say mixed messages, about what is actually happening in the rest of the world. Are the Muslim Brotherhood terrorist groups, or are they religious? So we've got absolute confusion. And if you look at in terms of literacy, we've got 42% in Egypt that are illiterate. So these people don't read and write. Now you've got another 60% that God knows they're probably half educated. So,
but can I interfere here, and I'll give you another question? Do you think the same thing is happening in India, for example?
Absolutely.
With that huge population and, of course, illiteracy also.
Absolutely. And we need to take that also, to be fair, during the occupation era, because the occupation era of England always was keen to destroy the culture and education in every country. And when we left Egypt in 1952, it was absolutely destroyed. So the same thing that is happening in India. We've got a high illiteracy rate. We've got a high rate that are victims of HIV, the victims of a lot of diseases, the victims of the social illness, if you like, the fighting, the misunderstanding, the violence against women, the violence against children, the child molestation. These are all behaviors that are left over by people that are totally marginalized and undermined. So I think what we need here, it's a fact that we're going to have to live with it. We need to rebuild the society, and rebuild the society through two directions from my point of view. The first direction is religious, because we are a religious society. And that's not from now, that's from Mehanna, the governor of Egypt. So we cannot really say that we're going to live without atheists, without religion. We are a religious society. However, we need to build on a civil society, or a civilization, or a citizenship that is basically based on brotherhood and cooperation and living in harmony. Number two, we need to look at the education and looking at kids and how they get taught about religion, and how they get taught about Christians, and how they get taught about how they should treat the Muslims and the Jews and the Christians. And the respect here should be for him as a citizen, and not for the religion that he actually believes in.
Exactly. This is what he hinted to, or pointed out to, in his term, and when he used the term the religious revolution.
Yes.
He talked about effecting a revolution. in their religious discourse. So do you think that falls into the category of effecting the revolution when we try to effect a new curriculum for, in schools, in changing the way the kids are aware awareness towards maybe other religions, maybe towards people who do not believe in any God at all, and they respect that at the same time? Because even adults, they could accuse someone who do not believe in God.
So I say
they do not respect his religious freedom.
The actual wording he used in terms of religious revolution, I think that was an extreme word. What we need is a revolution that we get over the concept that we misunderstood over a number of years, because there's people that don't believe in religion, so we cannot really force them. And Islam says that there is no kind of force over anyone to